I'm David Hunt, and welcome to The Art Hunter. With her wine-loving antics, witty repertoire, my guest today is an outrageous performer, singer, improv, cabaret, MC, songwriter, producer, and balloon twister. Her stage persona is amazing, clever, very showy, and she loves a festival. She's just returned from the Edinburgh Festival. Tash York, hello and welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Now we'll get to Edinburgh and all that stuff a little bit later.
Of course.
So, a singer, and you've got the most amazing voice. You should have been doing musical theatre or something like that. Why aren't you?
I studied musical theatre.
Oh, did you?
I did, yeah. I went to the Queensland Conservatorium of Music and I did that for 3 years and graduated, and about halfway through that course they did a cabaret course, and I fell in love with that genre a lot more than I fell in love with musical theatre, and yeah, kind of found I guess the ability to have my own voice and to do what I'd like to do with, particular stories or characters or, things that are happening in the world. And so, I think music theatre's always got a place in my heart, but I definitely enjoy what I do now a lot more.
Well, you're very much a show person, and I think you would have been stifled a bit with having to be in a very rehearsed show where the fact that you can go off script with what a cabaret performer does. But Tash, it must be a hard journey, especially in the early days.
Yeah, definitely. Wouldn't recommend it. I think for me, it was definitely a case of just knowing that that's where I needed to be and what I wanted to do. But going into festivals like the Adelaide Fringe Festival and having no idea what I was doing and not paying my rent for 6 months was probably not the greatest way to start off the journey. But that's why I do mentoring now, so that people don't do like what I did. Because I think it's definitely, a lot of people, they call it show business, but cabaret in of itself is like 80% admin and 20% actually performing and doing everything else. So.
That's interesting that you said you're mentoring people, and the fact that there is. So does there need to be better courses for cabaret?
Definitely. It's such a wild thing that people go into, open market festivals, which is any of the fringe festivals, basically. You get to pay, you get to be part of it, you organise a venue, you sign a contract, and then you have to pay that money no matter what, even if no one comes to your shows, even if you end up cancelling it. And so there's a lot of stuff around their business stuff that like a lot of people, go with their amazing show, and it's nothing to say that their shows aren't amazing. A lot of the time it's just the marketing and PR know-how to try and get your name out there, because especially these days with social media, there's so many different ways to try and get people's attention that it's a lot harder now to get people's attention as a result of it.
Oh well, that's good that you're thinking that way. And are people coming to you? It's working on that level?
Definitely. It was definitely a lot more popular and / I had more time for it during the lockdown sort of time.
Of course.
But I usually sort of in the next couple of months when everyone's putting in their offers and getting their offers from Fringe and that sort of thing, put out things from as little as just having a conversation with me to kind of run through their options to like coming up with a whole marketing plan for a particular festival. And then I'm also dabbling in a bit of directing and creative mentoring, as in putting the show together in the first place and helping people generate ideas and workshops and that sort of thing. So there's 2 shows in this Melbourne Fringe, one that I directed and one that I creatively mentored, and so it's definitely becoming part of the plethora of things that I like doing.
Right. I want to get to songwriting a little bit later, because you are a very good songwriter. Your lyrics are excellent, but you as a persona, like Tash York, and I've seen it in the last couple of years, you've become larger than life. Tell us that journey, because that's a piece of art. What you're doing here, your makeup, and you even do little makeup sessions on social media, don't you? So let's go on this journey.
Yeah, sure. drag sort of makeup and styling and whatnot became kind of an obsession in lockdown, and I was sort of already starting to get into the wigs and the big costumes and that sort of thing, but I kind of went back to my roots of sewing and, crafting and that kind of thing.
Do you make a lot of this yourself?
Yeah, that one, yeah. Yeah. So I'm still not great at wigs. That's the next part of the journey. I like being self-sufficient, David. I'm not sure if you've realised, but yeah, I kind of got back to that sort of stuff because it was something creative that wasn't, I did a lot of online shows and stuff, but it wasn't online shows, which I became obsessed with as well. And I guess, the journey of the makeup, it was to create, an even bigger expression of the things that I wanted to wear and the character that I wanted to be. But there's also something to be said for a female doing drag, AFAB drag queen, assigned female at birth, that there is this kind of idea that drag, for I guess not so much in the queer community, but a lot more in the sort of heteronormative, less creative community, that someone who does drag is always a male. And I, as a host, there's a certain amount of wildly, which I didn't mean to on purpose, but I kind of love, there's a certain amount of extra respect or regard that I get doing drag that I never got just presenting as a woman, but presenting as a drag queen, which I'm doing the exact same stuff. I'm doing the same things, but people are like more scared of me. They listen to me better. And I'm like, I've got this like scary drag queen persona now, which I can totally use to my benefit, which I absolutely love.
So there's this learning curve all the time, like the sewing and the makeup, and you haven't mastered the wigs yet, but that's just a wonderful part that's then takes you on to the actual show, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's also something creative that I do that's not technically my job, especially when I first started sewing, I was like, I'm just going to do this because I'm really bored. And then I was like, actually I could, maybe make this costume and maybe do this. And I sort of like kept leveling it up. But lots of people have asked me to make them costumes. I'm like, no, I don't want this to turn into another job because I have too many jobs. So it was a nice thing to do that was creative, that, I can either choose to wear it on stage, or I can make, normal clothes, or I can just, stuff it up and keep it in my wardrobe and never see it ever again.
Or rip it to shreds.
Or just rip it to shreds and use it as a turban or something. Yeah,
exactly. Oh, you're big on turbans.
I love
too.
A turban. Yeah, not in any of these.
There is. Oh, there's a bit of
that one. There, yeah.
But you mentioned about the fact that so much of it is, like the booking forms and the travelling and like paying the bills. Like that's a real art in itself, isn't it?
Definitely, and there's a lot of things around now that weren't around when I first started as well. Even things such as like invoicing apps that they can chase up people for you and that kind of thing, whereas it was just me on like a Word document trying to format the spacing and add things up by myself, which is not a great idea. So there's lots of little tricks and tips and things that you can do to automate a lot of that stuff now, which wasn't around, when I started in 2014. And so it's about passing those skills and working with other artists to go like, what do you do to do this? And we all kind of help each other because, that part is not any of the part that any of us want to be doing, but it's a necessary evil in order to do your job well and, to work well with venues and festivals, because they're there doing a job too. And if you're not replying to emails or reading everything or sending everything by a particular time, then that, stops you potentially from getting booked in the future. So.
And there must be a real family, a cabaret family, is there, that and each time you go off on another venture to a cabaret festival, you must meet new people, new friends.
I mean, yes, definitely new people, but
Friends?
Oh, no.
Oh,
no, what I more meant was like, it's kind of the same group of people, like since I've started, that are all still part of it. And there's definitely, younger ones coming up, but it was funny when I went to Edinburgh and it was like the best acts of the Edinburgh Fringe. And I walked in from around the world and I walked into the dressing room and everyone that was in the dressing room was from Australia and I'd done a gig with them before. And I was like, the best from around the world, guys, look at us go, so it's good in that sense because it is a big family, but that's why I really like doing the mentoring and that kind of thing, because I don't want it to be seen as like we're gatekeeping like this particular section of the creative world as well, because I think that can get old and stale too. Like we've all got to keep growing and learning and
So let's go back a bit, because it's been an interesting journey, which it should for an artist like you. cruising?
Yeah.
And that's where the balloon making came to play?
Balloon making actually came from me being a children's entertainer.
Oh, before?
Yeah. So when I went to uni at the con, they wouldn't let us do any other performing gigs. And at the time, I was making most of my money singing in a wedding band.
Right.
And so because they were retraining us on how to sing and how to perform and that sort of thing, they basically stopped us from doing any other performance. Yeah.
Is that wrong?
I still don't know,
is.
to be honest.
Yeah.
I think definitely for the singing stuff, I understand because I had to go through like a real process to get rid of some of the habits that I had with my singing voice. And, you know, my singing teacher completely transformed my voice over the 3 years that I was there. But yeah, like not being able to do other musicals and that kind of thing, it was a bit, I think they just wanted you to keep your attention on the course and only the course.
Well, you had to make a living.
Exactly. So that's why I was like, oh, what can I do? I can't just live off Centrelink. So I started doing kids' parties, and I'd never done it before, but, you know, I was the eldest on my mum's side and the eldest on my dad's side. So I was like, I've looked after kids. This will be fine. And so, yeah, really got into more the face painting and balloon twisting because it meant that I didn't have to run as much. So that was good. I could just sit. I could just look beautiful and sit and do things, which I like to do.
Did you get much work?
Yeah, like kids' party work is like paid cash in hand as well, which is great. And, you know, if you're good at it, it's the same as, you know, the performing arts. You get recommended for the next gig or, you know, there's some kids. And
those, like families talk to each other,
exactly.
The mums groups.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's the same thing. It's word of mouth. And there's some kids that I've done their second, third and fourth birthday party in Brisbane, which is where I was living at the time.
Wow.
Because, you know, you just kind of, once you get the work that you like doing, you do everything possible to keep doing it so that you can make money and survive.
Absolutely. And well, let's talk about going, because it happens so often that people go on cruise ships because they entertain every night. Yeah,
the contracts that I did were slightly different in that I was a guest entertainer, so I just got flown onto a ship and then I got to do my show 2 times for 45 minutes, and then I'd just get to be on the cruise ship for the next 3 or 4 days.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it was pretty good. I had some friends that were doing like the band stuff and doing the piano stuff, and a lot of those contracts are like 5 or 6 weeks at a time. And because I have so many festivals and other sort of gigs that I do every year, I had to kind of have a bit more flexibility. So it was pretty wild to be able to be doing, you know, my own parodies and my own shows, and it was myself and the 4-piece band that I met on the cruise ship that day, trying to explain to them that yes, I was supposed to be rapping to Cruel to Be Kind, and that was absolutely correct. And they're like, okay. But I think that's where the like wigs and the bigger makeup and stuff started, because I would be doing these cruise ship gigs and then I would, you know, the next day just be living with my audience.
Yeah.
And so then they would like, you know, you wouldn't really have much time to yourself because they just like, really loved your gig last night. That was great. I was like, yeah, thanks so much. I'm just eating a hash brown with bacon on it. Don't worry about it. And so I started, having more bigger looks on stage. You know, I had like a blonde and brown wig and that sort of thing. And then I had red hair in real life so that basically people wouldn't know who I was, which I know sounds really awful, but when you're on, you know, a cruise ship living with your audience for 4 days after doing your show, it's like, thank you. Like, it's really nice, don't get me wrong, but it can get a bit like, oh, I just want to sit on the cruise and enjoy my free holiday, my paid holiday.
Paid holiday. And how long did you do that for?
Maybe like a year and a half.
Right, okay.
But I was only put in the rota of like the PG shows, so it had to be still family friendly and open and that kind of thing, which, you know, I enjoyed for a time, and it definitely gave me heaps of footing in doing gigs like that. But I wanted to be part of the comedy cruises as a comedy cabaret performer, not just as sort of like the light entertainment before everyone got to do, you know, the stuff that they were doing. Because I'm friends, obviously, with because of the circuit and everything, I'm friends with lots of comedians, and, you know, seeing them and them getting to do their real material, and I'm there sort of doing this like 70% watered down version of what I really want to be doing. That was kind of where I sort of distanced myself from it a little bit more, because it was kind of not what I really wanted to be doing. Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you've really made a name for yourself and put yourself out there in the festival circuit. You know, like you're always somewhere else in Australia or the world now at a festival.
Yeah, I mean, festivals, like for a self-producer, like I'm still independently producing myself. So, you know, all of the money that it takes to buy the flights, buy the accommodation, you know, pay for the venue, pay the deposit, all that comes from me. And so it's kind of the best way to have go-to gigs throughout the year, so that you're like, cool, I've got the summer series of like Perth Fringe, Adelaide Fringe, Melbourne Comedy Festival sorted. Then in the middle of the year, you've got like your cabaret festival kind of circuit. And then towards the end of the year, it's like Melbourne Fringe and a lot of the summer sort of festivals, midsummer, that kind of thing. So if you've kind of got a couple of anchors throughout the year, then it makes it makes the rest of the year less scary freelancing and trying to find stuff to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. But it must have been hard to begin with, you know, like as a fringe festival person, and especially cabaret as well, because you hear, you know, especially, and we'll get to Edinburgh more so, but the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, a lot of people go over there and lose money.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, you know, do that as well on purpose sometimes, even bigger companies, because it's such a market, it's such a producer's market, so everyone from around the world all comes to that festival. And it's something that Adelaide Fringe does really well as well, is that they invite a bunch of programmers and festival directors and venues to come along and check out shows, and it's almost like an artist market. So if you can make it so that it's worthwhile and you get a bunch of other gigs out of it, then yeah, a lot of people go there for that. It's almost like an expo kind of thing, and people pay to be part of those all the time. So a lot of people, you know, even at a higher level, still lose money in Edinburgh Fringe. But I think a lot of people go there going, I have to do it, I'm going to do the thing. And
well, it's the Mecca, isn't it?
It's the Mecca, yeah. And then they come back and they're like, cool, I owe 20 grand. You know? So it's big money, right? Like I sold out my entire Edinburgh Fringe Festival season, 90% across the entire of Edinburgh Fringe in 2018 for my solo show. And I made $1,300 across the entire festival.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's not designed for you to make money.
No.
It's there, to...
What about the last one that you went to?
So the last one I went to, I was employed with Briefs. So Briefs are already a really big, internationally renowned circus, usually only boy, all troupe. And they hired me to come along to be their MC for their late night show.
Now, how great is that?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Going to Edinburgh and knowing that I'm getting paid throughout Edinburgh was like the wildest thing ever. You know, they organised my accommodation and my flights and my transfers, and you know, we got paid per diems for food every day. It was pretty, it was pretty lush.
So can you see that being, you know, like an arena that you want to get into more and more?
Yeah.
That safety net of doing it that way.
Yeah, I think I definitely would like to keep the combo of both. Like if I can, you know, simultaneously do shows, you know, within a festival environment, that I can do my own show and then also do someone else's show. I really like that model of working for me. I like hosting, but I don't only want to host, and I like doing solo stuff, but I don't only want to do that because it can kind of get lonely as well. So I think ideally for me it would be a combo of the two, but obviously I'll take the work when it comes.
When it comes.
Yeah, exactly.
Did it open doors for you? Do you know, like, have you heard anything back yet from the, you know, like Edinburgh?
I definitely think I was exposed to a lot more, you know, different presenters and producers and stuff that, you know, I wouldn't have been like put in front of, but a lot of them also were, you know, more circus and variety shows and that kind of thing. So nothing's like definitely come out yet, but there's a few things that are in the works that may pan out quite well. You know, female MCs who sing, there's not loads of us around at the level that I'm at, so it's kind of nice to be recognized in that pool of other, you know, really excellent MC female singers. And then on top of that I do drag, so there's another unique aspect that you know, kind of puts me in a good shed, a good light.
And so while you were over there, you did a couple of gigs in London. How did it go down? What, you know, like, did you get an audience?
They were already just like gigs like that they had, so we were just like guest performers and stuff like that. So I didn't have to worry about ticket sales or anything. But yeah, I love the UK. My sense of humor is very similar to the UK. Like my fiance is from the UK, so I have that very sort of dry, sarcastic, blunt kind of humor, I think. And I've always said this anyway. I was like, I'm way funnier in the UK than I am here. So yeah, it was nice, especially Scottish people. They're kind of just like people from Queensland with really hard to understand accents. So it's just like...
And the more excited they get, the less you can
Yeah, I'm
understand
like, I
them.
don't know. Yeah, sure, buddy. No worries. But they don't understand me either sometimes, so it's fine. We all get along. It's great.
Now, what you do in your show, you actually cover a lot of songs, but you're more and more putting your own songs that you're writing, and you're a bloody good songwriter.
Oh, thank you very
So
much.
where did that come from?
It came from the desire, I guess, to not have to pay APRA lots of money when I do my shows.
True. Yeah.
And also from the space of, not really quite finding the right songs to do. A lot of the time when I would cover songs or parody them, I would change the style of the song anyway. And I was like, well, I'm basically redoing the whole song in a different mode, so I might as well try my hand at getting something created that can,
Could you write
formulate
music before?
At the con we had to do music theory
Oh,
and
okay.
that sort of thing. So I can very badly plonk along with chords so slowly to myself, and I could read sheet music. Well, I haven't in a while, but I can, badly play along with myself. So I understand like chord structures. I understand, song structures and that kind of thing. A lot of the time it would kind of be really badly played chords like on a MIDI, and then I would actually like put them together on GarageBand so that they'd be in the right speed because I wouldn't play it fast enough. And then I would like kind of add other bits and pieces over the top of it and then give it to a musician who could kind of compose it with a bit more finesse and a bit more better style. But I have sort of done a few tracks that are more electronic tracks and whatnot. So, there's things that already exist that I can kind of put over the top of each other and change and move around. So I am sort of getting into that a bit more, but for a cabaret show, I love live music. I love, the idea of having a 3-piece band or more, but normally that's all I can afford.
Well, that's what I was thinking. A live band?
Yeah.
Can you afford it? Or are you getting to that stage now where you're selling enough tickets?
It's nearly there. I've got my red wines at the moment, and so they're my backing singers, and one of them plays piano and one of them plays violin as well. And so that's kind of the level of where my solo shows are now, is that because originally anyway I'd always have to pay a pianist, so it's just one extra at the moment, but it kind of gives a bit more of a grandeur when where they're in matching costumes and 3-part harmony singing and that kind of stuff, and I guess I built that as well because of that thing of solo touring. For so long I did that, and I would go to different states or different places, and then I'd just pick up a musician wherever I was, which is fine, which is lovely, and I'd get to meet lots of people, but having that like same crew with you all the time, and you're a team, and you can stay in the hotel together, and you can figure out a new city together, was like artistically obviously was the main part, but that was the secondary part of it, because just sort of traveling solo by yourself all the time does get a little bit boring. So.
Absolutely. But the wonderful thing is that you're now actually doing shows with all your own music.
So last month at the Butterfly Club, I got a chance to put together a show that was only my own songs, which was terrifying because it was the first time that I'd done that. How did it go down? It went down really well. I think that particular iteration was very much put together based on the songs that I'd already written for other shows. So I think if I did it again, I would definitely work more closely with one composer to kind of give them all the same finesse. Whereas because they were all different composers,
all
like it did sort of feel like a bit of a mixtape, which was fine because it was the first time I'd done it.
Hey, you could have called it mixtape.
Yeah, exactly. Hey. Mixtape Tash. I missed out. But you learn from it. You do those things.
Of course you do. Yeah.
And that was very graciously the opportunity was given to me because of Creative Victoria, and they had some grants going through the Butterfly Club to do something that you wouldn't do normally, and so I was lucky enough to be one of the recipients of that. So
Let's talk about your cabaret show.
Yeah.
There's often publicity shots with a wine bottle to your mouth, and the fun of what you're doing, Tash, is just absolutely brilliant, and sort of a little bit edgy for a girl to be doing that as well.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm from Queensland. No. I think I like pushing those boundaries of those things. It's the same as me doing drag. It's the same as certain certain songs, certain things. I rap a lot. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't be rapping. Like there's lots of things that I do that I shouldn't be doing, but I think that's the joy of coming along to see one of my shows. I think I thrive in that space of like, we shouldn't be doing this. Let's do it anyway. It's going to be really fun. I'm kind of like the Avenue Q Bad Ideas Bears. I'm just like there, like, why don't we keep going? Why don't we go to Macca's at 3 a.m.? So it's a fine line between making a show that's good and polished and is enjoyable and is artistically integral, but then also, being that persona and being that fun person and letting people kind of encourage them to be more themselves or, look after themselves or treat themselves when they want to.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of taking it to a comedy festival as well?
Yeah, I've done comedy festival a few times. When I wrote my second show, Adulting, I really focused a lot on the comedy aspect of it, on the patter. Obviously the songs as well, but that was when I sort of really started cutting my teeth in a lot more of that sort of emceeing kind of comedy. I'm leaning more into the improv-y sort of stuff as well. And so, and that did, quite well. I was in, a festival managed venue in 2019 for the comedy festival. But the thing I find with doing this sort of work in comedy festivals is that like there is a bit of a weird stigma around like musical comedy. And so at that time I was branding myself as musical comedy because I thought maybe that would like get me more gigs. I was just trying anything, you know me. And I was like, no, like once I started leaning more into the costuming and the drag and that sort of thing, I was like, no, I'm definitely more cabaret. Like cabaret is a lot more glamorous, a lot more grandeur, a lot more beautiful venues. Like I don't want to be standing in the corner of a pub in drag with like a microphone that like someone's probably vomited on at some point and like, the track doesn't start on time and then you can't really hear. Like I was like, what, like as a singer, I owe myself more than that. I'm not just like someone plonking away on a ukulele and swearing a bit, not that I'm saying that that's what musical comedy is, but that's where those sorts of things thrive. And I was like, no, I think I want to, aim towards something that's more, suited towards me.
With the drag, do you stand in the dressing room sometimes and turn and catch a glimpse of yourself and go, what the?
No, I'm staring at myself the whole time, David. I look stunning. I love it. I love how ridiculous it is. I love all the ways you can change your face. I love finding as many eyelashes as possible to put on my eyelids until they, you can't see my eyes anymore. Like I love it so much. I love the fantasy. I love the confidence that you get from it. Especially as someone myself who suffers from anxiety. Putting on my like drag is like Teflon, it's like I can do anything. And I guess for me, my drag, isn't a different character. Everyone's like, what's your drag name? I'm like, no, it's just Tash York. It's just the same name I've always been using. I spent a lot of money on a website and business cards, so we're not changing it now, and all my handles are the same. Anyway, and so, people get a bit confused by that, why it's not like a drag, and which is why I'm in this very weird space of kind of, even now, like I'm starting to do a lot more drag only gigs. But, just there's still some people that are like, but you're singing, I don't understand. I'm like, I'm doing like more. Like, why are you upset by this? So it's just about educating audiences because, drag is for everyone and, gender is a construct anyway. So it's like, what does it matter? Like,
look, the minute you actually said in an interview with me on radio about doing drag, I went, that is so clever. It's so smart, and and the way you're taking yourself on this journey in the where, like sort of running behind you, thinking, "What's next? What is next?"
Well, I don't know.
You don't know, which is good because I always ask the question, and I think it's important that you go, "I don't know," because I will develop as time goes on. 5 years ago, you wouldn't have even thought that you would be calling yourself drag.
No, absolutely not. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that Briefs would allow a female to be hosting one of their shows. Like the world is continuously changing. And I'm happy to sort of, be fairly like in the middle of of what's going on and see what happens next. I'm just kind of trying to focus on the work and focus on what I can do better to be a better performer. Yeah. And that's always served me because then something that matches that seems to come along, and I'm just kind of putting my faith in the drag and cabaret gods that they'll come together and make out and make something happen for me. So,
hey, you're doing it yourself. You don't need the gods because you're forging ahead yourself. I'm so thrilled that I've got to know you over time and that you were part of the Art Hunters live shows at the beginning of the year. And your performance there, everyone's raved about it. So congratulations on that as well. And I'm sure we'll use some of the footage as we're talking now. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And keep on doing what you're doing. And because in a couple of years' time, there'll be a whole new, there'll be 5 of you on stage with you.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm very vain though.
Tash, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. I'm David Hunt. You've been watching The Art Hunter. How can we top that? She's amazing. And we'll be back again real soon. See you, everyone.